Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is Kuf Yud Gimel. Officially, we're a little behind. We start with the Kuf Yud Bet Amud Bet with the Mishnah, new Perek Cheresh, and basically the whole Mishnah takes up this Amud Bet, and we pretty much read this Mishnah when it's come up in pieces in the previous Perek, so we're going to go through it pretty quickly. So let's take a look. Cheresh Shenasa Pikris. A deaf person marries a hearing woman. So a hearing person marries a deaf woman. If he wants to divorce, he can divorce, and if he wants to keep the marriage, he can keep it, because again, Dioraita, there's no kiddushin. He's not, if one of the people is deaf, as we know, halachically, they're not considered to be a bardas, which is actually an issue we're going to get to today about how much is a cheresh sort of disqualified or considered out of the sort of category of of legal agency, but that's of course the assumption here, that changes over time as well, post Gemara as schools for the deaf develop, etc. But obviously in the Mishnah that's assumed. So therefore the kiddushin is only rabbinic if one of the people is deaf, or deaf mute more specifically. But the same way the marriage was rabbinic, the divorce can also be rabbinic, and the rabbis will allow the divorce as the same way they created the marriage. So if he wants to divorce, he can. If he wants to keep the marriage, he can. The same way he brings in with like a gesturing, he can also divorce her with gesturing, which means that the same way he's not speaking, he's not talking, and so on. It's all done through him, expressing himself through gestures. So the same way, anyway, we allow a marriage in that situation, we also allow a divorce in that situation. Now, a hearing person married a hearing man married a hearing woman, and then she became a cheresh. So it's a kiddushin d'oraita now, because they were married when they were both hearing. So imratza yotzi v'imratza yikayim. He actually can divorce her, because divorce is unilateral, coming from the man. As long as the man is hearing, he can divorce her, even though she is not hearing and therefore not considered a bardat. The Gemara will say the same way a man could divorce. The Mishnah will say, let's keep on reading. Nishtatit lo yotzi. However, if she became not just deaf, but if she became a shota, a woman not in her right mind, then he cannot divorce her. And the reason is that's rabbinic, in order to prevent people from taking abuse of her, right? Because she will be a woman who cannot protect herself against sexual abuse or sexual exploitation. Lo yotzi. If he, however, became a cheresh or a shota, so he's not considered a bardat, then eino motzi olamit, he can never divorce her, because he is the one who has to write the get, and he is not able to, given that he are legally able to. He might practically be able to, but he's not legally able to, so therefore he can never divorce her. Okay, so moving on. Hold on one second. Okay, so
is that because it's not rabbinic?
Correct, because exactly, if we're supposed to the first one, exactly, because they were married when they were both hearing. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, said Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Mitnema ha'isha shenicharesh shenicharsha yotzah, but isha nicharesh eno motzi. What's the difference? Why, when she becomes a deaf after they were married d'oraita, when they were both hearing, can she be divorced? But when he becomes deaf, they cannot. Amrulo, they said to him, Eino doma isha megaresh isha mitkareshet. It's not the same, a man who's divorcing to a woman who's being divorced. Sheisha yotzah lirtzona v'shelo lirtzona. A woman is divorced with her will and against her will. So therefore, she's not really a member, participant in the proceedings. She's really here, an object, as it were. So therefore, she doesn't have to be a bardas. It's the man who's doing it. But the man does it only with his will, so he has to be considered an agent and a bardas. Hey, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada. Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada testified, a deaf mute woman, she see aviha, that her father married her when she was a minor. So that would be an example where she might have started as deaf, but the marriage was d'oraita, because the father was the one who was effecting the marriage. It was done when she was a minor, so it was a biblical marriage. Okay, she yotza beget, that the husband could divorce her with a get. So that's very similar, a biblical marriage, but it's the woman who is the person who is deaf, and the man could divorce her. Amrulo, so they said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, look, this is what Yochanan ben Gudgada said. So Avzo ki yotziba. Our case would just be like it. When she started off hearing and became deaf, same story, the man could still do it. Very interesting Tosfos. Hey, Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada, Tosfos says, Rabbanan hevi'u lebeis hamedrash lahavi raya ledivreihem. May Amr loves the kiyotzi below. So it says like, here, we're going to prove it. Yochanan ben Gudgada, come here. We got, come tell which I like the hevi'u lebeis hamedrash. Like he was a person who normally wasn't in the beis hamedrash, but they asked him to come because to prove their point. Okay, maybe not that big bench. Okay, fine. Back to the Gemara. So that's the issue about one of them. If the marriage was rabbinic, it could be divorced. Then she could be divorced. If it was doraita, only if he is still a bar dat. And now we get to the section that we've read before. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Two deaf brothers married to two deaf sisters. And then we're going to go through, or the sisters are not deaf, but it doesn't matter since the brothers are, it's only rabbinic kiddushin. Or the sisters are hearing. One is hearing, one is deaf. Or the reverse. Both sisters are deaf, and then it doesn't really matter what the brothers are. So they're both deaf and the brothers are hearing. Or both brothers are deaf. One is hearing, one is deaf. Bekitzer, two brothers married to two sisters, but it's all rabbinic because two of the either the brothers or the sisters are deaf. So in that case, if one of them dies, you're exempt from chalitza and yibum because it's a case of wife-sister, and it's all operating in the same plane because we're dealing with two rabbinic marriages of people that are deaf. If the sisters were not, if the women were not sisters, were unrelated, then you could do yibum. And if you want to give a get after yibum, yotzi, you can give a get. But what you cannot do, at least in some of, is chalitza, because you can't do chalitza if one of the members there is a cheresh, right? If the woman's a cheresh, she can't do chalitza. If the man's a cheresh, can't do it because so therefore, since one of the people we're dealing with minimally is a cheresh, chalitza is not an option. Now you have two brothers, however, one is hearing and one is deaf. And they're married to two sisters, both of who are hearing. So you've got one doraita marriage and one durabanan, with the guy who's the deaf person is the durabanan marriage. And they're married to two sisters. So the deaf person, the deaf man dies. What does the hearing brother do, who's married to the hearing woman? So basically, he now is dealing with his wife's sister, and he's married. The woman he's married to is a biblical kiddushin, right? Because at their hearing, and now he's got his wife's sister. So so the woman walks away. That's easy enough, right? It's a biblical case of wife sister walks away. Now let's say the hearing brother dies. So the deaf brother, this woman also is his wife's sister now, but the problem is his wife is not his biblical wife because it was only a rabbinic marriage. So what is he going to do? She can't walk away because the guy isn't really married to his wife, Doraita. On the other hand, he can't do Yibum because it's rabbinically, it's because whatever, it's his wife's sister. So Maya he's really stuck. He has to divorce his wife. He can't keep on living with his wife because to keep on living with his wife, it would be achos zikukaso. He can now. Is his brother's wife forbidden forever? Why can't he do chalitza? Because he's a cheresh. Okay, right? He's a cheresh, so he can't do chalitza. Why can't he do yibum? Because then he would having sex with his wife or ex-wife's sister. So she is stuck. Now, so that was a hearing and a deaf brother. Now you have two hearing brothers married to two sisters. One. So now, rather than the brothers being one of each, it's the sisters that's one of each. The guy married to the deaf sister dies. Okay, so now the guy married to the hearing sister, he's got a case of wife sister, but it's a biblical wife sister. He's married to his wife biblically. So so that's easy. So the woman walks away, right? Because the guy that's the surviving brother is biblically married to his wife. So this is wife's sister. She walks away. But it's more complicated when the hearing brother dies. What does the hearing brother do who's survived, but he's married to the woman who is deaf, which is only a rabbinic marriage? So now he's faced again with wife sister, but he can't walk away because his marriage is only rabbinic. So ma bachareshes motis ishto beget. So he divorces his wife, can't keep on living with his wife. That would be achos zikukaso. But now this eshes achi bechalitza. You have the option of chalitza. Since he is hearing, it was his wife who was deaf, right? He's hearing, so he can now do chalitza with his wife's sister. Is everybody with me? I'm doing this a little quickly, but people are basically getting the gist here. Okay, because we did this before. Okay. I only got one yes to that question. Okay. If you have one of each on both sides, and again, two brothers married to two sisters, and the deaf man is married to the deaf woman. So if the deaf man married to the deaf woman died, what does the hearing man do? So again, same story. This is his wife's sister. He's biblically married to his wife. This is the hearing man and the hearing woman. So she walks away. So that's always easy, right? That case. Now the hearing man married to the hearing woman dies. And now you've got the deaf man married to the deaf woman, case of wife sister, but again, it's only rabbinic because it was only a rabbinic kiddushin. So he has to divorce his wife because that's achos zikukaso, because now he has a mitzvah of yibum with his wife's sister. Back to that story though. His brother's wife, this guy is a cheresh. So he's a cheresh, he can't do chalitza, he can't do yibum because that would be sex with his ex-wife's sister. So she is always forbidden. Shnei achim. So that was all the permutations of two sisters, two brothers and two sisters. Now we're going to do two brothers and two unrelated women. Shnei achim. Echad cheresh, echad pikeach. No sim l'shtei nachriyot, pikros. Two brothers married to two unrelated women. Okay, but the brothers are one of each. So the deaf brother died. So what does this guy do? So now he's got a rabbinic mitzvah of yibum with his brothers, his deaf brother's wife. So that was a rabbinic kiddushin, rabbinic mitzvah of yibum. The women are unrelated, so fine. Do whatever you want, either chalit or yibum. So now the hearing brother died. So the brother who's deaf, what does he do? So again, he has a mitzvah of yibum. Doraisa, by the way, we should point out he has a mitzvah of yibum, right? Because his hearing brother was married to this woman biblically. So he's a doraisa mitzvah of yibum, but this woman is unrelated to his wife. So again, do what you want. So but no, it's a little restrictive. He can't do what he wants. He's a cheresh. So one thing he's not able to do is chalitza. So his only option when faced with his brother's wife is yibum. Now, after he does yibum, he can't say, okay, fine, you did yibum, now divorce her so she can go marry somebody else. No, he's a cheresh. He can't give a get. Okay? So here you have, meaning this is a very simple case with all the complication. Basically, it says, what does a cheresh do who's faced with a mitzvah of yibum? He can't do chalitza because he's a cheresh. He can only do yibum. And after yibum, he can't do a get because he's a cheresh. So bottom line, what it's saying is a cheresh who has to do yibum can only do yibum and they can never get divorced. Okay?
The cheresh can never get divorced anyway.
Right. But at least then he's sort of choosing, whether to get married. Well, that's not true. When a cheresh, no, thank you for clearing that out. That's the first point of the mission. That's what this is in contrast to. When a cheresh gets married, it's only a rabbinic kiddushin, so he can also get divorced rabbinically. But when a cheresh does yibum, it's a biblical act of yibum, right? So because yibum is done more by the physical reality of having sex, and it carries over the kiddushin from the brother, even though the person is a cheresh and not considered a bardas, the yibum is still binding to a raisa. So thank you. Yes, that's exactly what it has. This, when you get through all of these various permutations, the clear point here is contrasting to the first case. When a cheresh gets married, he can also get divorced. When a cheresh does yibum, it's still raisa, and he can't get divorced. So therefore, and the woman is stuck anyway, because the woman, she can't walk away from this situation. She doesn't have chalitza. Right? So besides the cheresh, whatever, they're both sort of stuck. The only option here is yibum and then no divorce. Okay? Although if he would shirk, he could always shirk his responsibilities, which wouldn't be, she is really stuck. Okay. So where were we? Now, two hearing brothers. Nisuin the Beis Nachriyot, married to two unrelated women. One is hearing, one is deaf. So the man married to the deaf woman died. So what does the man married to the hearing woman do? So again, it's a biblical. He can do whatever. He's hearing. So the woman is not related to his wife. He can do whatever he wants, except because the woman is deaf, she can't be part of a chalitza ceremony. So the only option, you got it? So what do you have, meaning bottom line, what do you do? What does a man do if he has a mitzvah of yibum with a deaf woman, with his brother was married to a deaf woman? So he can't do chalitza because she can't do chalitza because she's deaf. So you can only do yibum. But you can do a get after the yibum. Because again, a get can be given even for a doraisa kiddushin as long as the man is hearing. It doesn't matter that the woman wasn't. That's the principle we laid at the beginning of the Mishnah. So what can he do? Kones, he can marry, he does bia, he can't do yibum. He can give a get, even though she's deaf. That's the principle we pointed out in the beginning, that as long as the man is hearing, he can give a get, even by a deoraita kiddushin. Now, what about if the brother died? So now you have a hearing sister and a hearing brother who has a mitzvah of yibum. He's married to a woman who's deaf, but whatever doesn't make, this woman isn't related. So then he has all the options. So Maya, but Ochole Tomi Yabim could do chalitza or yibum. Shnei achim, echad cheresh ve'echad pikeach. Yeshua the beis nachuyas, echad cheresh ve'echad piches. You have one of each, and they're married to the deaf. They're married to the same type. So the deaf man who's married to the deaf woman died. What does the brother do? So again, mitzvah of yibum with a deaf woman, but it's a rabbinic mitzvah because his brother was only married rabbinically. What does he do? Kones v'imratzalot yotzi. He does. He can't do chalitza because she's not hearing. So because she's deaf, so chalitza isn't an option. He does yibum, but he can also give her a get if he wants to after the yibum because he's hearing. Now, if the hearing brother dies, what can this guy, the cheresh, do? So he can't do chalitza because he's a cheresh. He can only do yibum, okay, but he can't give a get after the yibum because, again, he's a cheresh, and the yibum is doraisa. So kones ve'eno motzi le'olam. He can only do yibum, he can't give a get. So we've now worked through all the permutations. Again, a lot of this we covered yesterday or the 2 days before. The biggest point to be made is the point that we just said at the end, which is that there's a big difference. As a cheresh, if he gets married as a kiddushin, it's rabbinic and he can get divorced. But if he winds up doing yibum, then he cannot go ahead and give a get. However, if she's the chereshet and the man is a pikeach, then you could have a yibum followed with a get, and that's also building on the principle at the beginning that the woman doesn't have to be a bardas in order for there to be a get. Yes.
How does this all apply today?
What do you mean? How does it apply? In terms of do we treat cheresh today as a cheresh? Yeah, you would. I mean, the Gemara doesn't offer a solution. I mean, it's really thankfully, cases of yibum are rare, combined with these cases are rare, and so on. But the real possibility of this being different is how the category of cheresh and chebeshet changed, as I've been indicating. There's a whole development in halacha about whether to treat them as bnei deah nowadays because of it's clear that they do have intellect and knowledge and so on. Yeah.
In the case of the cheresh, chereshet, and then then the other one, the other just to be a pikacha. We say that she's really stuck. Why don't we just say Efkin Rabbanan Kedushim?
Yeah, it's a good question. When some of these are rabbinic, like when they're not all rabbinic, but when some of these are rabbinic, there's not a good answer when we decide to say Efkinu and when not. Like this is a case that really would call for it. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, I don't have a good answer. Okay, let's take a look at six at the Gemara. Amar Rami Bar Chama. We have a nice little expository piece of Gemara now. This whole Mishnah is based on the idea that there's a rabbinic kiddushin for cheresh, but we don't find that there's a rabbinic kiddushin for a shota or shotap, somebody who is like I'll just translate that, not in their right mind, not mentally well. Okay, so what's the difference? So how do you know that? If somebody who is not mentally well and not in his right mind and a minor married women, umesu, and they died, there's no even rabbinicness requirement of chalit and yibum. It's not even rabbinically recognized. So why is there a difference between a deaf person and a person not in his right mind or a katan, knowing that rabbinically those are all considered to be people that are not of legal agency? So the Gemara says, by the case of a deaf man or woman where the rabbinic institution will stand, so they established it. That when you're dealing with somebody that is not mentally well, that the institution won't stand. Why won't the institution stand? Because a person cannot live with a snake under the same roof. So Takantu b'kfifa achat lo takinu rabbanan nisuin. They did not establish it, which means that it is, it's very hard to live with somebody who's not mentally stable, and therefore the rabbis felt that they were not going to go ahead and create an institution of rabbinic kiddushin, if such marriages are highly unstable. So umayshna katan dit lo takinu rabbanan nisuin. Okay, but how about a minor? I mean, a minor, it's not an unstable situation. Again, and we know that there was rabbinic kiddushin for a ketana, so why not for a katan? Why not for a minor boy? So the Gemara says, Aglo takinu rabbanan nisuin, v'cheresh takinu le rabbanan nisuin, and they did for a cheresh. Cheresh to lo asi lechlal nisuin, because a cheresh, if we don't create a rabbinic kiddush marriage for a cheresh, he'll never be able to be married. So therefore, takinu rabbanan nisuin, they established this institution of rabbinic marriage because they want him to be able to be married, and so you want to don't do it within this type of a legal institution. Katan to asi lechlal nisuin, but a minor that will grow up. Lo takinu rabbanan nisuin. They didn't have to create the institution. Wait till you grow up. What's the rush? Enjoy yourself till your bar mitzvah. Anyway, so all right. So Bekitzer, that's a very good reason. Why create this new institution? What's the need for it? Just wait till you grow up. Okay. So the Gemara said. Now, by the way, Rashi says takinu rabbanan nisuin. If you look like 4 lines on the bottom, kidei shelo yivatel. That specifically has the connotation of yivata from pru or vu. Okay, so as opposed to just sort of saying like people, it's an intrinsic good to be married, which is also true, and the Gemara discussed earlier. Right, Rashi is also introducing the idea of doing the mitzvah pru vu. Although one should say that even the mitzvah pru vu, if the person is not obligated in mitzvot, we're also not talking specifically about doing it from a mitzvah necessity, but from an intrinsic good type of an idea. People want to be married, they want to have kids, so the rabbis created the institution of nisuin for a cheresh. There was no need to do it for a katan. Okay, but now the obvious question is, so why do you need to do it for a ketana? Okay, okay, but a young girl will eventually be able to be old enough to be married biblically. The takinu rabbanan nisuin, and they established it even when she had no father. Why do they need to do that? That is so that she should not be taken sexually advantage of. If you have a young girl that doesn't have a father, right, people will take sexual advantage of her. So it's better to get her married and to have a man that will protect her, in order that, that's just, to protect her own, so that she herself will be protected. It's actually interesting. I was reading this thing about
there's a brother around potentially.
Yeah, exactly. But there's nobody who is like who really sees her as her in that way of responsible. So look, this is something that has been true for millennia about the idea of a woman attached to a man in the sense that a man needs to provide for her, to protect her, and so on. But I guess I was particularly struck that I was this big thing that's been in the news the last few months about rape on campus, right? And people know about all these problems. Anyway, so this one woman was talking about they tell you that like when you go to parties or this or that, you should say you've got a boyfriend, or you should pretend that or somebody should agree with somebody, pretend you have a boyfriend. So says what is this? I need a man. Without a man, I can't. I need a man to always be there to be protecting me. Or to pretend that there's always some man there, right? That so this idea that even in today's society, right, women who are not perceived of as having a man to protect them, might be, taking more advantage of it. So it's not something that we've really grown out of, or that, has left us. So it's quite, I don't know. To me, that was just shocking. Okay, so the Gemara says like this: why do they allow a ketana when you've done this rabbinic kiddushin to do miyun, but they don't allow a cheresh to do miyun, right?
You mean as long as she's a ketana?
As long as she's a ketana. So that's going to be the answer. So the Gemara's answer is no. Im kain mimni v'lo naspila. No, because if a chereshet can do miyun her whole marriage, who's going to want to marry a woman that any day can do miyun, right? Like there's no commitment. Whereas by ketana, it's for the period that she's a ketana, and then it'll be binding. Okay, now you have these two kiddushin derabbanans, ketana and chereshet.
But if a ketana is married, she can still do meat.
Yeah, if a ketana is married to a kohen, she can eat truma, even though she herself is not a kohenet, which is actually interesting, right? Why? I mean, truma's d'oraisa. Why would we let a ketana do it? So Gemara is sort of elsewhere here. It's going to touch on it, but elsewhere develops the idea of two things. Number one is if she's not obligated in mitzvos. So, okay, she's doing an Aveira, but big deal, but it's not really a big deal. I mean, would you just tolerate it? So the other point is that we're talking about an assumption that we're dealing with rabbinic truma. Maybe nowadays all truma is to Rabbanan, or maybe it's on, fruits and not on grain and it's to Rabbanan. So A, it's only a rabbinic prohibition, and B, the person themselves, either as a ketana or a chereshet, is not obligated in mitzvos. So therefore, we're going to allow it if they're married to a Kohen, because obviously, Kohen's going to want to feed his wife the truma. That's most of what he's got, right? And that's part of creating this institution of rabbinic kiddushin. But the reality is we only allow it by a ketana, we don't allow it by a chereshet. What's the difference? How do you know this is true? That only the ketana can and not the chereshet? We're talking Mishnah. Hey, Rabbi Yochanan Good Geda. Here we have Rabbi Yochanan Good Geda again. Al chereshet she'si avia sheyotze beget. That was what we quoted in the Mishnah. That a chereshet who's married by a father can be divorced by a get, because again, it's a kiddushin doraisa, but the man can still divorce even though she's a chereshet. The aktana bas yisrael shenisis l'kohen, and if a minor girl is married to a kohen, even if it's rabbinic, she'achla betruma, that she eats truma. V'ilu chereshet lo achla. But it sounds like only the ketana can eat truma, not the chereshet. So what's the difference? So the Gemara says, no. We don't let a chereshet, a deaf woman married to a Kohen, eat truma, because we're afraid that she'll be married to a deaf man, a deaf Kohen. So what? So the Gemara says, v'leichol, so, and let her eat. If the minor, or not a minor, but somebody who's not considered right to be legally obligated, right? The same way we allow the young girl, let's allow this case as well. So she's eating non-kosher things. Again, in another Gemara explains that it's only non-kosher rabbinically, right? Truma for a non-kohen. Okay, it's treated as non-kosher, but it would be a rabbinic scenario. So what? I mean, we allow it by ketana, allow it here. So the Gemara says, okay, we're afraid that if we allow a deaf woman married to a Kohen to eat truma, we'll allow the reverse, which is a deaf Kohen to have his hearing wife eat truma, and his hearing wife is obligated in mitzvah. So the Gemara, and that would be also only a rabbinic marriage, because he's the deaf, because the man is deaf. So the Gemara says, so what? Let her at least eat rabbinic truma. Okay, fine. That would be a case of an adult woman eating truma that she's obligated in mitzvot, but let her at least eat rabbinic truma, because we let, so that won't be so bad. So the Gemara, I mean, we're willing to wait, like in the case of the katan or whatever, the ketana, we were willing to waive certain Rabbanan concerns. Let's waive it here. So the Gemara says, no, no. Because once this woman is eating any truma, it could easily lead to truma deraisa. So the basic point is like this: that why do we not allow a deaf woman married to a Kohen to eat truma? Because if we allow a deaf woman married to a hearing man to eat truma, it'll come to the reverse, which will be a hearing woman married to a deaf Kohen eating truma. And there, since the woman is obligated in mitzvahs and she's eating truma and she shouldn't be eating truma, it'll very easily slide into her eating deoraisa truma and actually violating an issur deoraisa. So that's why we don't allow it in the deaf case. Now the obvious question is, so say the same about the minor case. Why would we not allow if we allow a minor girl to eat truma married to a Kohen, why aren't we afraid that will lead to the reverse, which is when the Kohen is a minor boy and he's married to an adult woman, right? I mean, right? That's the problem. We don't allow one case because we're afraid of the mirror image, which will be a doraisa problem. So Rashi says, no, look, by cheresh, if either side is a cheresh, it's the same Durabanan Kiddushin. So we can assume that if people will think, if you allow it when she's a cheresh and he's hearing, then we should allow the reverse, right? When the man is deaf and she's hearing, that it's easy to reverse those cases. But the case of the minor, especially in a society where it's the girls who are very young that are being married and not the men anyway. And number two, we only have Kiddushin for a minor girl, not for a minor boy. We won't come to allow the reverse when he's a minor and she's not.
The minor boy could only be equal. That's the only way.
Right, exactly. So you don't even have a rabbinic kiddushin when the boy is minor. Yes.
The previous case, why can't a minor cheresh have miyum?
Why can't a minor cheresh?
Because she's just that period while she's still a minor.
Oh, she can. That might classify for. She could.
Oh, so
yes. When it says that they didn't establish for a cheresh meant from from the dimension of her being a cheresh. She's not excluded from it if she's also a ketana, but her status of a cheresh does not allow cheresh. It doesn't allow her to do meat. Okay,
but it seems like the Gemara is all framing it like xera ligzera, at least the way it seems.
Yeah, so Rashi somehow explains it, and you needed to go 2 steps or whatever. I don't want to get into that. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. Okay, umayshna ketana di isla ksuva, umayshna chereshes de leisla ksuva. We're going to demonstrate in a minute that within the rabbinic institution of kiddushay ketana, there was also a ksuva. But not with the rabbinic institution of kiddushay chereshet. Why is that? So the Gemara says like this: the im kain mimni v'lo naspila. Okay, so the Gemara is saying because Chireshet is, again, sadly reflecting a sad societal reality, that in the case of a deaf woman, people are more reluctant to marry such a woman. So therefore, if there would also be the obligation of ksuva, nobody would want to marry her. So by not having a ksuva, it makes it more possible for her to get married. And that's not seen to be the case of a ketana, because a ketana, of course, is going to grow up. What?
It's also going to make it more easy for her.
That is true. That is true. Again, I guess it was assumed that in the balance, this was the best for her. Okay, the ketana minol the isla ksuva. How do you know a ketana has a ksuva? Now we talk in Mishnah. If a woman refuses, right, a young girl, and she walks away. So remember, when a girl walks away from marriage, it's like she was never married, so she's not going to get a ksufa. Or a shniya, somebody who's a secondary arayot, rabbinic arayot, so they didn't establish a ksuva for that. Obviously, it's a type of a fine. The ailinist, and a woman who was an ailinist, which is a woman who had never developed sexual characteristics or whatever, developed in an unusual way. And anyway, she's seen as completely excluded from the possibility of having kids. And as a general rule, assumed that the man did not want to marry her had he known mekachtos. If he consciously did it, it would be different, but it's assumed to be mekachtos. In all these cases, the first and the last one because it was never a marriage, mima'enis and islandis, and the middle one because it was a forbidden marriage. So there's no ksufa. Aval, so the Gemara comments, fine, but mima'enis remembers the ketana. So the point of the Mishnah is the reason the ketana doesn't have a ksuva is because she did miyun, and she made it that they were never married. So the implication of that is, this is now the Gemara talking, were she actually to have been divorced through a get, and she was a minor, not that she did miyun, but she was given a get as a minor, yesh l'ksuva. The implication would be she would have a ksuva. That's a pretty good deal, right? It's only because she did miyun. So there we see a ketana has ksuva. The cheresh binal and delays l'ksuva. How do you know a cheresh doesn't have ksuva? At the time we turn on the brisa. Cheresh v'shota shenasu pikchos. If a man was a cheresh or a shota and married a hearing woman, even though they became better hearing or cured or whatever, while they were married, they know the ksuva. They have no ksuva obligations. Okay, even the cheresh. I mean, the shota there was not even a rabbinic kiddushin, but even the cheresh, because he could not. The assumption being that since he was deaf, he could not. The man, since he was in this category of not having agency, although they established kiddushin, they did not establish, and he's suing. They did not establish ksuva. And even if he presumably wrote a ksuva, where maybe, we'll see about that. Maybe we wouldn't assume that he could undertake, his own financial obligations, or that it would be binding. So anyway, they got married. They don't have any ksuva obligations. If now that they're better, they decide to continue with the marriage, then now we're dealing with a marriage d'oraisa, and now there will be a ksuva. Okay, but it basically starts with the idea that there was no ksuva automatically, even though there was a rabbinic kiddushin and nisuin. And
meaning then they write one now,
or even not writing it, just living together and continuing to be married creates a rabbinic, automatically the rabbinic institution of ksuva obligations kick in. Okay, ksuva obligations exist. Yeah, it might be less or whatever, but okay.
So anyway, means like that moment, like the day they get better.
Yeah. I mean, right. Once they decide that they're going to continue with living together and being married. Now, let's say the man is well, and the woman is either deaf or not in her right mind. So here's the difference. Meaning, because he is a bardas, if he chose to write a ksuva, he could write $1 million ksuva. You want to go ahead and create a financial obligation, you're gesund. Hey, the rabbis didn't institute ksuva, but if he wanted to, again, so that's the difference between if he's the one that's well, or in the first case where he was in the category of not bardas, even if he undertook a financial obligation, it's assumed that it won't be binding because he's considered not a bardas. It's interesting. We allow him to get married, but we don't allow him to undertake financial obligations. In the second case, however, in both cases, there's no rabbinic institution of ksuva. But in the second case, where he actually is a bardas, then even though there's no institution of ksuva, because the woman he's marrying is a cheresh or shota, but he can undertake the obligation and it will be binding. Okay? He wanted to create a debt on his property. He's entitled to, right? There's no rabbinic institution, but you want to create an obligation because to hate. So anyway, in all these cases, you see that if one of the side is a cheresh, there's no rabbinic ksuva. So taima deratza. The only reason that there's a ksuva obligation in the second case is because he undertook it. Hello, ratz if he didn't, ainla. So the woman who's a chereshet does not have a ksuva. So why is this? So the reason is, we said before, Dimken, whether they institute a rabbinic ksuva, mimni velo naspila, people would not want to marry her. Ihachi says the Gemara. So how about the first case where he's the cheresh, where we also said there's no ksuva? So why don't we say the reverse? She now is the woman who's hearing, right? You got the case, she's hearing, he's not. Right? Basically that the right that we just quoted made it clear that if one of the sides is not hearing, no ksuva. So we said when she's not hearing no ksuva, we waive the ksuva so people would want to marry her. Okay, when he's not hearing, why don't we insist that there's a ksuva? Because we would say a hearing woman wouldn't want to marry this person unless, minimally she had the same protection, right, as any other woman, right? Why do we are creating a disincentive for this woman to get married. And we're just trying to say we're trying to make it easier.
For this man to get married, right?
For somebody to marry this man. Okay, by waiving a ksuva, it's a disincentive to marry this man. So why are we doing that? So the Gemara says, let's have a ksuva. Because otherwise people won't want to marry him. So the Gemara says, So famous line in the Gemara, which is more that a man wants to get married, a woman wants to get married. So therefore, we have to create more incentives for men to marry women than we have to do for women to marry men. Okay, which doesn't exactly explain. Look, we can't read this. On the one hand, what the Gemara is describing is sadly a societal reality. As we very well know today, right? And it's very that people for big, small, and everything in the middle, little things. Somebody's not perfect in whatever their idea of perfection is. That's whatever. Nobody wants to marry them, or whatever. So that's number one, just a tragic reality. And the Gemara but it is reality, and the Gemara is dealing with it. Okay, well, the answer is that. Which also I think is a reality, which is that it's a lot easier for men to get married than for women to get married. So therefore, if the woman is the one who has something that makes her, different, and here particularly, she's deaf or shota and so on, certainly shota, even more challenging, you have to create an incentive because it's harder for women to get married. So you have to, what? Yes, but when it's the man who has got the issue, you don't have to create an incentive because it's easier for men to get married. Why should it be like any other case? Right, so that's the question that has been answered. Okay, fine, you don't have to create an incentive. You don't have to give her like a double ksuva for a woman who will marry this man. But why not give her like the normal protection? Right, so that's not clear. It seems like that the answer is that you don't give them, because since he's a cheresh, since a ksuva is him creating a financial obligation, and he's not a bardas, there's some sense that it's not fair to impose this financial obligation.
Why doesn't the Beit Din do it then? Meaning like they should still do it. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand. Meaning not that he has to create a contract, but that it just is his obligation. Right. I mean, if we're trusting him enough, there's enough of bardas to get married. Right. So that is a very good question. Like, it does not really answer. Right. Everybody understands. The problem is it explains why they didn't have to create an additional incentive for somebody to marry this man. It doesn't create why they created a disincentive, right, by taking away the ksuva. Why shouldn't the woman have the normal protection, right? And it seems that it's only based on the fact that like he's not a bardas, so somehow somehow that would be seen as like not fair to him or something. But there's really not a good answer. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. Now, Hahu Cheresh, the Have B'Shivusei, the Rav Malkio. There was a certain Cheresh that was in the neighborhood of Rav Malkio. Anseve Itata, he married a woman. The Kosav La Aramei Azuze, he wrote a big suva, 400 zuz. So what we've said until now made it sound like a cheresh cannot undertake a ksuva obligation. Even if he wanted to, he couldn't, because he's not a bardas, right? So even if he wanted to, he couldn't. And here, presumably, Rav Malkio allowed him to write a big suva. Amar Rava, man chochin to Rav Malkio, who is wise like Rav Malkio, the Gava Rabbahu, because if he's such a great rabbi, he was able to, on his authority, do this, even though it sounded like before you're not allowed to do this. Why? Because he's of the opinion, look, ilu rotza shifcha l'shamsha milu zavninan lei. Let's say, he wanted to go to buy a slave woman. We would allow it, meaning it's true that cheresh maybe biblically cannot engage in transactions, but would we let him go to a store and buy some food? Oh no, you're a cheresh, you can't engage in transactions, right? Obviously, we would allow him to engage in certain types of financial transactions that were necessary and see them as legally binding, that were necessary for him to get along with his life. So he could actually, if he could buy a woman as a slave woman, why couldn't he go ahead and pay a lot of money for a wife? And write a big suva. So kol shekein hacha the ikatarti. So here the woman will take care of his domestic needs as a wife, and it'll be his wife. So why should we allow? Which is sort of like what Michael was saying before, which is, so why not establish a ksuva for such a woman rabbinically? Okay, normally cheresh doesn't undergo finance, but for God's sake, if he's getting married, why don't we? Why is it unrealistic to do the whole package and to protect the woman who's going to be entering into this marriage? So there is not really a good explanation why. And it's one thing to say maybe to assume a greater obligation we won't let him, but to have the normal obligation, that's a real question. Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Shmuel. Now we're getting to the question. Now we turn to, so that was a very lovely exposition of like all of the differences between cheresh and ketana and chereshet and like what the package of rabbinic kiddushin is about. Now we turn to the question of, and you remember this, we had this a day or two ago, about how much is it only purely rabbinic? Remember the Gemara before, the question, is it quasi-kiddushin? Is it suffix kiddushin? But this question is not just going to be about kiddushin. This question is also going to be about the status of a cheresh. To what degree is a cheresh really out of the category of a bardas? And this is, again, an important Gemara for the possibility that category continues to develop afterwards. So let's take a look. It says like this. The wife of the cheresh, if a person, another man has sex with her, is at an act of adultery. So you do not have to bring a doubtful asham. An asham toloi is something you bring when you might have done an isser deoraisa. So the man who did this, it's not even a doubtful deoraisa of adultery, which basically means it's a purely rabbinic kiddushin. It's not a possible deoraisa at all. You don't bring an asham toloi. So that, which is basically a way of saying that a cheresh is fully out of the category of bardas. So the Gemara says, let me try to prove it to you. 5 people can't take truma, and if they do, it's not binding, it's not meaningful at all, which means that it's biblically meaningless, because if it's biblically binding and rabbinically we don't like it, then it still would be truma, because it would have a biblical status of truma. So to say it's nothing means that it's nothing even biblically.
So if this truma falls back into the table, there's no problem.
Exactly.
Everything's table.
Exactly. So ve'eluhein, and these are the 5 people that don't even that biblically do nothing in terms of the truma. Cheresh shota v'katan, those 3, right? The deaf, the person not his right mind, and the minor. But if it's not yours, unless you're made an agent, it's not good. Or a non-Jew who did it, even if he was made an agent or given permission, but he's not considered to be an agent and can't take truma. Okay. Ain't truma so truma. It's not good. So you see, that's a good proof that a cheresh is considered completely excluded. So aren't we saying the same thing? It says not necessarily. Hudam like Rebbe Lezer. It's possible that actually Shmuel would hold like Rebbe Lezer, that generally a cheresh is maybe a suffix. The Tanya Rabbi Yitzchak Omer Mishum Rebbe Lezer, Trumas cheresh lo teitze l'chulin. If a cheresh takes truma, it cannot be considered to be not truma at all. and just like chulin. Neshu safek says very clearly that a cherish's truma is doubtful, meaning that a cherish's status is doubtful whether he's a bardas or not. So isvirik Rabbi Linzer, 1 minute. If you hold that a cherish's status is doubtful, Hashem tell me lami l'chayev. So if a man sleeps with the wife of a cherish, he should be doubtful adultery d'oraita and has to bring a sacrifice for doubtful sin. It says, look, technically you're right, but this is a technical point of Asham Taloi. For Asham Taloi, here, there's a whole discussion by Asham Taloi, but the question is, if I eat a piece of something that might be, I don't know, chametz on Pesach, do I bring an Asham Taloi? And Michael said, what are you talking about? Didn't you hear that some of the stuff from that store is chametz? Okay, but whatever. Who knows what the status was with this? It's just an abstract doubt. Do you bring an Asham Taloi? That's one case. That's just a doubt. The other point is there are two pieces in front of me because here Michael invites me to his house and he has Sephardi matzah, which looks just like pita, right? So I go ahead and I eat something that I think is Sephardi matzah, and it turns out that there was actually real chametz pita right by it, and one of them was pita and one of them was matzah, and we don't know which one I ate. So that's called chaticha mishtei chatichot. There's a concrete Isser D'Oraisa in front of you, and the other one is Heter, and you don't know which one you ate. That's a classic case of Asham Taloi, when there was the concrete possibility, the object that you could have done the Isser D'Oraisa with, as opposed to, maybe, I don't know, it's a doubt. That would not be. So what the Gemara is saying is, Shmuel might have just been saying a technical point in Asham Taloi. Maybe he holds that a cherish is a doubtful bardas, and that actually, if a man were to sleep with the wife of a cherish, they'd be doing a doubtful act of adultery, d'oraita, okay, but still no asham talui, because it's not like, one object is us or one object is mutter type of a thing. It's just a doubt what the nature of the status is. Okay, so the point is that might have been a technical point in terms of asham talui, but maybe it's possible to hold like Rabbi Elazar's position that a cherish is a suffix, and that becomes the important point that we're going to focus on, which is the status of a cherish. Is a cherish definitely not a bardas, or is he a suffix bardas? And we have now introduced a new idea that a cherish is a suffix bardas. So let's take a look. So the Gemara says, 1 minute. Umi by Rebbe Lezer chatichim mishtei chatichos. You're saying he's going like Rebbe Lezer that a cherish is a suffix, but Rebbe Lezer normally doesn't need there to be for asham taloi for there to be two pieces. The Hatad, we talk about Rebbe Lezer Omer koi, which is this animal that's a cross between a chay and a behema, so you don't know whether the chaylev, the fat, is forbidden or not. Chayav anochel bo asham taloi. You're chay for the fat and asham taloi. Okay, and that's Rabbi Eliezer. So if Rabbi Eliezer says that that's how you treat a suffix, even if it's not one piece out of two, so the case of a wife of a chayre should also be an asham taloi. So Shmuel, Saruk Rabbi Eliezer b'chado pliga leb'chado. So okay, since when does Shmuel have to hold all the positions of Rabbi Eliezer? He holds like Rabbi Eliezer maybe that a chayre is a suffix bardat, but he doesn't agree that you bring an asham taloi for cases of just abstract suffix. To bring an asham taloi, you would need two objects. So therefore, in the case of the wife of a cheresh, there would be no asham taloi. So that's the asham taloi issue. But again, back to us, what's interesting is the idea that a cheresh might be a suffix. So let's take a look. So the Gemara says like this: that actually he explicitly said you are chayv an asham taloi. That he completely made an explicit statement that it is that the cheresh is a suffix bardas, and therefore his wife is suffix his wife d'oraita. Meisvei, how could you say that? Don't we say chamisha lo yitrumu? The five can't take in this by a cheresh. It's absolutely not truma. No, Savalak Rebbe Lezer. He holds like Rebbe Lezer, who says it's a suffix truma. So now what's fascinating again, and you have to understand how important this is in terms of the contemporary discussions of the status of a cheresh, is that the Gemara is now, throughout all of Shas, you would say, who are the people that are not bardas in Shas? Chereshot v'katan, right? So, it's always that trio. Now we are finding that there's a position of Rabbi Eliezer that a cheresh is a suffix bardas. And the Gemara is actually, focusing on that position, and actually has one version that Shmuel explicitly stated that position. Okay, so now we're going to explore that idea. Bar Ravashi, yes. My time with Rabbi Lezer. What's the reasoning of Rabbi Lezer? Is it clear to him that a cheresh has like weaker das, feeble? Yeah, I guess it's nice. I'd rather not say that. That has a lot of negative connotations. Weaker das. Like so I know, but okay. So he might not be as intelligent. Again, this is all through the Gemara's lens as other people, but not everybody is as intelligent as everybody else. That doesn't exclude somebody from the bardas category. So that itself would not do it. But okay, that's starting point number one, but that's not really so relevant. Here's his question. Idaita tlusa, idaito ilav daita tzlusa. Whether his das is clear, is tzalul, is clear or not, right? So there's a difference between how highly intelligent somebody is and whether they think clearly. Just because somebody is not highly intelligent, or even of low intelligence, and again, this is all the Gemara's perspective, obviously, but that does not make somebody not a legitimate legal agent and somebody not a bardas within halacha. Not everybody is as intelligent as everybody else, right? But if somebody can't think clearly, then that's a problem. Like, you can't reason clearly, can't think clearly, and whatever. That's different than just not being so intelligent, and that would put somebody out of the bardas category. So therefore, is this what Rabbi Eliezer says? His question is, because the Gemara doesn't want to think that Rabbi Eliezer really thinks that a cheresh is just as intelligent as everybody else. The Gemara assumes for granted that nobody would think that. But fine. But being not as intelligent would not put him out of the bardas category. But what would is not thinking clearly. And maybe right. Meaning, we all see, look, in a time when they did not have schools for the deaf and they didn't have sign language, whatever, a cheresh is going to act unusual within normal society. He can't communicate, right, and so on, and he can't hear, and he can't make normal sounds, and so on. Okay, so he's clearly acting unusual. So do you interpret that as just lack of intelligence, or do you interpret that as not able to think clearly? And only if you're in category 2 are you not in the bardas. So maybe that's what Rabbi Eliezer's question is. Ula'olam charadatahu, and he always, though, is of the same state of mind. We just, and we just don't know, though, which side of the fence he is in terms of thinking clearly or not. O Dilma, or do we say pshitale? He knows that no, he actually not only does he have not weaker intelligence, but also he doesn't think clearly. Okay, so then what's his question? This is his concern. Sometimes he does think clearly, and sometimes he doesn't think clearly. Okay, so the point is, it's not that he's a stable state of mind and we're trying to determine it. It's that we think sometimes the cheresh acts more normally than other times. So maybe sometimes he's thinking clearly and sometimes he's not. So therefore, that's the doubt. So the doubt is, meaning, and it's a question about whether you sort of say the entire category of a cheresh. I don't know how to categorize it. Everybody's a cheresh. I don't know which side of the fence they fall on, whether they're all bardas or all not bardas. That's the first way of saying it. The other way of saying it, no, this individual. I don't know if this is a moment when you were thinking clearly or not. Okay, do you understand the difference? Is a big difference. So the Gemara says, "L'may nafkamina." What practical difference would there be? Lahotzi ishto beget. If a cheresh married a woman and then he wanted to divorce her, now our Mishnah says you can do it, but maybe according to Rabbi Eliezer he couldn't. Why? If he's always of the same state of mind, kiddushin kach gerushin. So if the kiddushin was doraisa, the gerushin would be doraisa. If the kiddushin was dorabanan, then the gerushin would be dorabanan. But it's always the same thing. All charashim are always the same thing. We just don't know which one they are. But so but if we don't know if it's this particular person, what his state of mind was at any given time, if that's true, so itim shota kiddushin matzi mekadish. So the kiddushin is good because it's either good doraisa or dorabanan. But girushay lo matzi megarish. But he couldn't divorce her because maybe when he did the kiddushin, he was in a clear state of mind, and now that he's coming to write the get, he's not in a clear state of mind. So what do we say? Right, you would think you could test it. Let's see if you could write a get. Right. I know, it's funny. So teku, so we don't know. But what is really important, you should know for thinking of future halacha, is here you have the Gemara recognizing that it never has this doubt by a shota. It only has this doubt by a cheresh, right? And the Gemara recognizing that it's not so black and white what the status of a cheresh is, according to Rabbi Eliezer. And therefore, maybe even according to, first of all, there's some gaonim, I should point out, that seem to pass like Rabbi Eliezer and seem to actually indicate, I'll try to find it. I found some gaonim who actually seem to indicate, not only do we pass it to suffix, but that if there's evidence that he is a bardas, that he would be treated as a bardas. Okay, so once you have Rabbi Eliezer's position,
and then you have to have a ketub if he gets married.
Yeah, but then you could treat a cheresh as a bardas. Right. And once you have Rabbi, and certainly the second version of Rabbi Eliezer's position, which basically says we don't know. Well, in a particular case, it's not a category decision; it's a case by case. Then anytime we have evidence in a particular case about that person, we could put him into the bardas category, right? So that's certainly within the gaonim. But of course, if we don't pass him like Rabbi Eliezer, it becomes a little bit more theoretical. But nevertheless, it's an idea that certainly gets developed, in the last few hundred years. Yes. So we'll end here for now. Go ahead.
Halfway through the discussion,
Yeah.
it says, oh, well, maybe we mean that the cherish is a suffix right there. What's the other option since we're talking about an Asham Talui?